Hi sweet friends, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a video that is more on the practical side of life. I am going to reorganize my pantry. I've definitely seen a lot of social media posts and videos about reorganizing, decluttering, taking this time that we're spending indoors to declutter our homes and create cleaner spaces in a space that we're spending a lot of time in right now. And so I kind of thought, why not get on that bandwagon, right? Since doing sort of our major declutter and minimizing of our stuff, a lot of what I've needed to declutter is one or two items here and there. It's not very consistent. Every time that I go back to those spaces that usually need the most decluttering, like our clothes, like the toys, extra dishes, stuff like that, I'm just finding that there's not a huge need to declutter more of those things. If you don't need to declutter things, then usually you can take a second look and see if you need to organize them. So the things that you do already have sometimes can be organized better. And this guy back here needs it badly. So we live on Post. Depending on what house you get on Post, you get either a much smaller or a much larger pantry. Like we have a 4-bedroom house and there are other houses in our neighborhood that are 3-bedroom houses. And the ones that are 3-bedroom have this huge walk-in pantry that's beautiful, but they do have one less room. We have one more room, but our pantry, I mean, look how tiny that door is. It's literally like this teeny weeny little shelf closet situation, which I find ironic because if you have 4 bedrooms, you probably have more people, which means you probably need bigger pantry space. But that's just me. So here's what we're working with. It's nice and tall, which is great. The shelves are really tall and you are able to fit, tall things like these cereal boxes on any shelf that you want to. There's a lot of unused space down at the bottom. We have our bin for recycling down here, but look at all of that unused space that you could put at least one more small shelf, for cans and things. We could probably put some large screws here, or even little, a little, almost like shelf holder, like this, where the trim comes out, and probably put more shelves in the middle, and you could fit a lot more things on there. Because as you can see, there's a lot of wasted space between the things that are in here. So this isn't bad. It's just, the whole thing is not terrible. It's not like food's falling out or anything, but as you can see, there's just sort of things thrown into random bins. This was my first attempt at organizing, was having these bins, and they've got kind of mixed up. One of them's not even being used. It's just stacked under another one. And the different kinds of food are all mixed together. And so it's hard to find what I'm looking for or to know even where to look first. And so I end up having to dig through the whole pantry sometimes to find one ingredient. So we definitely need to fix this. As our kids have gotten bigger and we're eating more food around the house, I've definitely had to branch out with where we're storing food. So we actually have 3 different places that we're storing food right now. So this is the second place that we store food. There was more food on it, but we've kind of gotten it down to just some random snacks for the boys. We go through a lot of fruit snacks. And then snacks for Blaze. And that's kind of weird, right? There's snacks for Joseph and there's snacks for Blaze, and they're just not close together and it's not very cohesive. This is where I store my Instapot, my crock pot, and then we have sort of an ongoing declutter basket right there. So that's pretty much all that we can really fit onto here, but this is kind of like our little snack area, which helps that when we're running out the door, it's easy to grab snacks. One last place that we store food is out in the garage. And this is pretty much where all of our canned items are. We have some extra diapers and toilet paper and soap. There is a very random open bag of snacks that my little boy is eating. We've got some extra water if we need it. It's sort of random. There's chips next to the diapers and wipes up there. So as you can see, there's just a lot of things not all on the same shelf. There's a lot of different food in a lot of different places. And I just really would like to kind of get things all in one cohesive spot. So my first step that we're going to do here is just to take all the food out of the pantry and put it on the kitchen table. That's my little helper for the day. We're just gonna divide the different kinds of food, and so I can see everything that we have and then decide where we're gonna put it back into the pantry. So here's the whole pantry emptied. And I had this tray in here and it was holding a bunch of jars. You can see where some oil spilled on it. But honestly, it's not really doing anything. Like, it's not holding anything in any particularly helpful way. So we're gonna take that puppy out and clean it off. And I'm gonna wipe down the shelves and then we'll get to figuring out where we actually wanna put stuff. So here is all of the food that we got out of the pantry. A lot more fits in there than I thought, but that would probably also explain why it's all stacked up on top of each other. And who is that tasty snack? Are you the yummiest? Anyways, we pretty much can divide it into baked goods, jarred goods. We've got some like potatoes and vegetables. There's some more jarred things over here and baking stuff. We're gonna need like 4 separate sections. And some of the things that are like canned, there's not a whole ton of them. Those right there should just go outside with the rest of the canned things. And then maybe some of the things outside that don't make as much sense can come inside. Okay, so here's where I'm running into a little bit of trouble. I have some dry goods that I brought in from outside that I'm thinking of storing in here. And I have boxed things in here that could go outside and stay with other boxed foods in the garage. The problem is some of these are already open and I don't really want to put open containers out in the garage. That's going to require me to mix different kinds of foods in different storage places. And I kind of want to store them all in the same spot so that I know where they are. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to think about this. Hey, and pro tip, if you need to pour rice or cereal or dried goods into a jar, do it in your, preferably not dirty, but do it in your sink. You'll save a lot of mess. Okay, update on our pantry organization situation. I have jarred goods and produce on a shelf here. This shelf, if you remember, was over here in the corner. I brought all the cans that were inside and brought them out here, and I organized what kinds of things are kind of in a row. So like, I kind of know that beans and yeah, basically beans and some vegetables are over here, some soups are over here, and then fruits over here. Anything that's not open, any dry good that's not open, I'm putting out here. Once it's open, it's kind of gotta go inside because I don't want bugs and stuff to get in it. We've got some of the boys' snacks over here. These are all sealed or individually packaged. Now I have to figure out where to put these 3 things because those were on the shelf here, but we can't really put them there. It would look kind of weird out in our regular living space, and I have little boys who would play with them. I've got some bins of things here, and the rest of this stuff is either baking goods or open jars and boxes of things. All of this needs to somehow go back in there in a good order. Okay, I think we got it. I shifted a bunch of different things around and reorganized things and threw things away and took wrappings off things, and I actually was able to get rid of 3 of the bins that normally go in the pantry because I just don't need them and they didn't really help me out organization-wise. So I can save those for another time, but here's what we're looking at right now. So I'm pretty proud of what we were able to fit in this really small space. We've got 2 bins down here for recycling. I just had this one before, but it spilled out so quickly. I mean, like in less than a day. So it helps having 2 bins so that it's more contained. And then my my pressure cooker that I usually cook rice in, and my crock pot are here now, which makes life so much easier because normally it's on like the really high shelf up in that room or on that shelf in the other room. Either way, I have to kind of like walk all the way out of the kitchen to grab them. And so it's kind of just easier having it right here. Kitchen is right here. A lot easier. We have our potato bin and bread with some flour behind it. These 2 things were all the way up at the top, and this bin is really heavy. So I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner, to put it further down where I can just grab things. Basically open jars of things, condiments, stuff like that. There's not very many. And then this shelf is all just baking. So I've got kind of baking containers here, my whole wheat flour, sort of little baking odds and ends that are small enough to all fit in a bin where I can just pull it out when I need to. And then all the way up at the top, the lightest things, the things that we use really the least, but they're still just easy to get down. Just some random like pastas and cereals, That bin over there is more of like the junk food, snacky food that honestly should be further away, so we have to work for it. So like chips, and there's like a little container of cookies and some like ranch mix. I really, really like this.
I just wanted to encourage you that organization in a small space is totally possible, and actually sometimes it's even more needed in a small space so that you're able to find what you need and you're able to find your way through a space that is otherwise can be really, really crowded, and things can just sort of spill out at you because you're trying to cram everything you need into that space. If you're working with a really small pantry like I am, don't be afraid to branch out into other spaces in your home. We don't really store any food back here. I at least try not to. I have cooking sprays and spices up here, and I actually moved a couple of like handy snacks for me to grab for rather than going to this snack thing up here that's not very good for me. I put some like almonds and sesame seeds and different things like that, just like a couple of bags up here, along with my protein powder that I put in my shakes. So that's just kind of easy to store just on one of the smaller shelves over there. But don't be afraid to branch out into other places. It's okay. Like this honestly is like 3 small pantries. We have this one, the whole shelf over here, and the shelf in the garage. And sometimes that's just what you have to do to make it work. But if those 3 spaces can be neat and tidy and organized, that's what really matters. Honestly, what I like the most of all is that I was able to organize everything without having to buy anything new. So especially with not being able to go places, and like I could go to Lowe's and maybe do like a curbside pickup for extra shelving, but especially with having 2 little kids at home, it's so much easier if you can just find things and ways and containers to organize things in your house. So much of the time it's just about shifting what you already have around. Like the baskets on this shelf, let's see, this basket and these baskets were holding other things. So like they were holding yarn and they were holding the remotes, but I was able to find another place for the remotes and for the yarn that I couldn't find for the produce that really needed to be there. So sometimes it's just a matter of like shifting things in different containers or taking something out of a different container and just working with what you have. And it's fun to kind of get creative with your organization without having to worry about going out and buying something new. I really like the way that things are organized right now. I feel like I kind of know exactly where to go when I'm looking for a certain item. And I think this will just be a lot less stressful and a lot easier to keep tidy and organized. There are definitely hard days and good days throughout this whole quarantine situation. And I do count myself very, very blessed that I am able to be here safe and sound. And I have the luxury of just being able to take the afternoon to organize rather than being on the front lines of this virus. My heart goes out to all of you that are working so hard to keep us safe, to keep us fed, to keep us well. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you. And I'm really happy that I was able to organize my 3 mini pantries. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.